We are indeed privileged to have as our guest speaker a man who is an accomplished leader. He's a graduate of the University of Missouri in Columbia, and after he graduated, he was commissioned in the Marine Corps as a second lieutenant. Upon completion of the basic school and the infantry officer school, he was designated a Marine infantry officer. He has commanded at all levels from an infantry platoon all the way up through and to include an infantry regiment. He has had some very unique and demanding staff positions during his career. He's been an instructor at both the basic school and the infantry officer school. He has been a military assistant in the office of the Secretary of Defense. He has been the Marine military assistant to the Undersecretary of the Navy. He's been the commanding officer of a recruiting station. He was a distinguished graduate. Keep learning all the time. Education is continual. He's a distinguished graduate of both the Amphibious Warfare School and the Marine Command and Staff College. He is a graduate of the National War College. He's a Massachusetts Institute of Technology Fellow. He has seen deployments, and he holds 3 master's degrees also. He's seen deployments in Cuba, in Bosnia, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Virginia, and he has seen combat in Iraq and Afghanistan. His personal decorations include his Defense Superior Service Medal with POM, which designates a second award, the Legion of Merit with 2 Gold Stars, and the Gold Stars indicate additional awards, the Bronze Star with the Combat Distinguishing Device and a Gold Star, Meritorious Service Medal with a Gold Star, the Navy Marine Corps Commendation Medal with Gold Star, the Marine Corps Achievement Medal, and the Combat Action Ribbon with Gold Star. In his current position, he is the Commanding General of Training Education Command, which the Marine Corps JROTC program falls under, so he's our boss. He is also designated by the Commandant of the Marine Corps as the Commandant's liaison to the Marine Military Academy. Please join me in a warm NMA welcome to our guest speaker, Brigadier General Calvert L, Commanding General, Training and Education.
But this morning, I'm going to take a couple minutes and talk to you about leadership, to kick off your leadership forum. And I'll tell you that the opportunity to come out here to Texas, to Harlingen, and spend a little bit of time talking to young men who are focused right now on honing their skills, developing the skills that they'll need to undertake a lifetime of contribution to this nation is an absolute honor and privilege for me. As a Brigadier General, you might think that's a big deal, but there's 4 stars who, I was just explaining this morning to a group of the cadets, for the 4 stars, I'm still a kid who has a lot to learn. And so this morning I'm going to talk a little bit about the leadership and the demands of leadership and the requirement for lifelong learning, which you all have already embarked upon. And I know I've got an audience out here with some very young folks in it, and some folks that are about to graduate in May and head off and begin their lives. And so I'm going to try to mix this up a little bit, and first give you a little context about what I think the world might look like in your time. What are some of the challenges you might face as young men who are about to embark upon your journey as citizens of the United States? And so, context. Right now, again, I was talking this morning and reminding myself of how old I guess I am, because many of you were born after September 11th, 2001. And so you haven't lived a day in your lives where the nation hasn't had folks forward deployed and in harm's way in battle of some nature, whether it be high-intensity conflict in Iraq or the lower-intensity counterinsurgency conflicts and the stability operations that are ongoing in both Iraq and Afghanistan right now. The point is that in your lifetimes, the United States has always been involved, and there's always been a chance of Americans coming home after sacrificing their lives. What that means for you as citizens is that the nation has undergone some particular challenges, because not all of you are going to go off and serve in the military. This is a college preparatory academy, which means that we're arming you and equipping you so that you can go off to college or go out into the world armed with the skills that you'll need in order to be successful at whatever you undertake. The world is going to be a continually complex world. It's going to be challenged by new domains beyond air, land, and sea. It's going to be challenged by new domains such as cyber, which everybody is familiar with, space, sea, surface, and undersurface warfare, and competition for those spaces with peer and near-peer adversaries. Russia, China, North Korea, and others seek to challenge the United States for relevance in the global affairs, in the world of global affairs. And that's really what creates conflict in the world. Those are the types of things that you'll need to undertake. I think everybody's paying attention to what's going on in Washington, D.C., right? Everybody understands that there's a partial government shutdown, right? By show of hands, who really understands what that means? Zach, I didn't put my hand up either, okay? Because there is no great explanation for why things shut down and why our government can't work things out. But I will tell you that despite the lack of understanding, despite some of the challenges that this nation undergoes, that's what makes this nation great. Having been around the world, one of the things that most Americans take for granted is our opportunity to criticize our government, to criticize our president, to be frustrated with our elected leadership, and to be vocal about it. You can go on any social media site, you can walk around freely, and you can vent your spleen and say whatever you want based upon our First Amendment right. And I don't know that most Americans understand how precious that is. But there are others out there that would seek to change that, if they could, and change our way of life to their way of life, and expand their way of thinking beyond the borders that they currently maintain. And in your time, the fight in those different domains is going to require you to think very, very critically and use a lot of the skills and a lot of the tools that you're learning right now here at the Marine Military Academy. You're going to be armed and equipped in ways that I couldn't have envisioned when I was going to my high school, which was a college prep high school in Missouri 30 some odd years ago. I graduated back in 1984. And so I tried to think about what I might talk to you about this morning in that context. Did I understand everything that was going on in the world? I certainly didn't have 3 master degrees, and I certainly didn't want to have 3 master degrees when I was in your shoes 30 some odd years ago. I wanted to get through the day's work. I had aspirations. I knew I was going to go to college, but I didn't necessarily know what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to serve, and I knew I wanted to do something. My father and my mother insisted that we be productive citizens. That was the goal. That was number one. My dad used to come home every day and say, "What have you done for the country today?" And he wasn't overly patriotic. He just didn't want me sitting on my butt all day, every day. He wanted to make sure I was up, moving, and focused, doing something, moving forward with the goal of contributing at some point in time to the nation. I had no vision, and I certainly didn't know that I'd be, standing in front of you after 28 years in the Marine Corps as a Brigadier General. But I knew I had a mission and a task to be of contribution to the nation and to be a good citizen. And so I encourage you for where you sit right now. And I also encourage you to stay the course. I know it's not always easy, and I know that right now it's hard for you you to envision what it is you might be 20 to 30 years from now. Day to day, class by class, lesson by lesson, and before you know it, you could be standing here, you could be a CEO, you could be a president of a corporation, who knows where you'll be, but I know that you've got a great start. So, all this to kick off the leadership forum. Leadership. It's a big subject. I'm going to read a couple definitions here. Webster defines leadership as the power or ability to lead. Not very helpful, right? Everybody understand that that's all you have to do? That's leadership? Just have the power or ability to lead. Other definitions include defining leadership as influence, or a leader as one who guides and shows the way, or as the art of accomplishing more than the science of management says is possible. A lot of different definitions for leadership, and I'll tell you that is the problem. Because no one has a path. No one has an absolute goal or direction that says that leadership is formulaic, and if you do X, then you'll always be a great leader. William Penn says, no man is fit to command another who cannot command himself. You all understand what that means? Okay? No man is fit to command another who cannot command himself. And so, I'll kick this off with a short parable. And I'm going to go ahead and pull the mic out of here, and hopefully I don't shut it off. Short parable. Many, many years ago, there was a king. And the king of this kingdom in a far-off land was a man who had lost sons earlier in his life, and he found himself in his later years without an apparent heir. He had no sons left. He was an older man, and he wasn't going to produce an heir. And as a king with no heir, that certainly poses a pretty significant problem. Correct? So the king, he seeks counsel of his wisest men, and the wisest men propose a solution to his lack of an heir. And they propose to the king that he should choose someone from amongst the population. And then within that population, there are many young men, none of his bloodline, but maybe one who could make a suitable king at some point in time. And so the king came up with a proposal. He gathered his kingdom, he gathered the folks around him, and he said, this is what I'm going to do. And he gathered all the young men of a certain age, because he wanted to make sure that the king, the new king, would have longevity. And he gathered them all together. And he distributed seeds to each young man in the group. And he told them all to plant the seed, watch the plant grow, take care of the plant, and in a year he would check on their progress. They would come back, assemble again, and he would check the progress of what they had planted. And he who took the best care would be elected king, as judged by the sitting king. And so all of the young men left with their seeds, planted their respective seeds, and over the course of a year, they nourished and they took care of their plants, and they watched them grow. But there was one young man who was troubled by this fact, and his name was Kenji. And Kenji went out and he planted his seed. And at some point in time, over the course of the years, he noticed that nothing was happening. He was watering the plant, he moved the plant into the sun, out of the sun, moved it around, and there was nothing. And he became very, very concerned. He was failing somehow. The king gave him a mission, and somehow he wasn't even in the conversation. He wasn't even in the fight. Days went by, weeks went by, and nothing happened. But every day, he watered his plant, he did what he was instructed, and he just became frustrated. Months went by, and nothing happened. And his mother and father encouraged him to stay the course. Don't quit. You continue to take care of the plant as instructed by the king. Well, it wasn't a plant yet. It was just a pot with a seed in it, right? Others around the village were showing up and they were talking about their plants. And some plants had grown into young trees. Some were beautiful flowering plants. And the rumors started to go around that Kenji's plant was not growing. But they were boasting about the plants that they had. And they were showing them off. And as the year ended and the day of assembling back before the king came near, Kenji was very, very, very disconcerted. He was certain that he had failed. He was certain that he would not succeed, and certainly would not be chosen to be the king. And on the day that the village came back together, and they stood before the king looked out, and young men and their families presented before the king very extravagant plants. Some were great trees, some were flowering and beautiful. And Kenji showed up with his pot. Nothing had happened. Nothing had happened. Yet his parents encouraged him. You go forward and you tell the king that you did what he said. I watered, I nourished, I was disciplined, and I tried. And that doesn't really sound very enticing when you're looking at an empty pot, correct? And all of a sudden, the king came before everyone and he looked out and he said, I see that you've all assembled here as instructed after a year. And I see that you've brought these beautiful plants and flowers and all of these very exotic, lush productions. And as he went around and he asked each young man, well, what did you do, young man? How did you take care of the plant? They talked about what they did and why their plant was so beautiful and how great they were. And then finally he got to Kenji, who had kind of hidden out in the background, and he was embarrassed because all of his efforts had not borne fruit. And the king finally arrived and said, young man, I see that you brought me a pot. Where's the plant? And Kenji began to explain. King, I was disciplined. Every day, I did what you asked. I planted the seed. I watered the seed. I moved it into the sun, out of the sun. I tried to find new ways to make this thing grow, but nothing happened. I failed you. And the king put his hand on Kenji's shoulder and he said, come with me. And he walked him out in front of the village, in front of all the people. And he said, people, I've made my decision on who the king is going to be. The king will be Kenji. And there was a gasp. Wait a minute. His plant didn't grow. He's got an empty pot. And they chuckled and they laughed. They snickered at him. And the king said, I see that by your reaction, that you don't think he's worthy. But here's the thing, people. The seeds I passed out were all sterile. They weren't going to grow. None of them was actually a fertile seed. Only one young man in the kingdom had the integrity to do what I asked, stay with it day after day, exhibit the discipline despite failure, weather the humiliation and keep his head up, and never became angry and never took it out on anyone else. The rest of you took the seed that I gave you, and when it didn't grow, you simply replaced it. Your integrity, therefore, is no good. You would rather look good than be good. You'd rather take a shortcut in the face of failure, and you're unworthy to lead. And Kenji became the king that day because of his character. Because he did the right things. Despite failure, despite frustration, despite the outward appearance. And I would tell you that those types of lessons are the types of things that you're going to go through and use here at the MMA and certainly move forward. Kenji provides us an example. And I will tell you that right now, as you look up here at this stage and contemplate what your future is going to be, I'm going to give you a couple different things because I want to keep this moving and get to a point where we can ask some questions as well. Did you all get up this morning in PT? Yes? All right, what did you do for PT this morning? Yep.
Good morning, sir. Could I have power for class? Photo, sir. We didn't have PT, sir. We went to person up.
So why did you stay late? Because he told you to.
Yes, sir.
No, not. All right. Thank you. Okay. All right. He's smiling right now. Okay. Two things. I'm going to give you a couple different thoughts. Leadership. When you think about where you learn and how you learn, I'll go back to formative lessons and how you might start to build your leadership style. One of the things I think has been most informative for me was going back to high school and what it is you all do on a day-to-day basis. You all are asked to do a number of different things, and leadership is nothing that's formulated. It's going to be formed by a number of different ways and actions that you undertake on a day-to-day basis. First and foremost, leadership is formed from reading. Some of the things you do in terms of reading, some of the things you do in terms of your actions, the sports teams you participate in are all absolutely essential to what you do. And I will tell you that how to be a leader on a day-to-day basis is, again, something that begins with your context. And we've got 14 leadership traits, 11 leadership principles, and of course our core values, correct? Okay. And so when we start thinking about those core values and what is most essential, one of the things we need to think about is how we get the chance to apply those skills. And how many of you hold buildings out there right now in MMA? Are you a team leader, a squad leader, or a platoon commander? How many of you have responsibilities on a day-to-day basis? Okay, a few of you. All right, and those challenges are absolutely critical to your future formation. And so, the context and the 14 leadership traits and principles. I would tell you that anytime you get a chance to move forward in life, it's going to be absolutely essential to you. You're going to need to watch. What's the best book you've read so far on leadership? There's a number of them. We start with The Red Badge of Courage. We start with Small Unit Leadership, a small book by Von Schell. And I will tell you that for myself, in high school, as a football player, as a coach, in college, and small jobs, I started to develop my leadership skills. The leadership skills being most important were the work ethic. And have most of you worked during the summer at this point in time? Okay. The importance of a work ethic can't be understated. It is the underpinning of what it is you do, and certainly starts to provide you with those opportunities to demonstrate what you do on a day-to-day basis. And of course, once you've done that, then you'll have opportunities. And those small opportunities become larger opportunities when you start to take a look at being able to work yourself up from an entry-level job to a managerial position, and then of course to leadership positions. For me, I would tell you that once I became a platoon commander, there's a couple different things. When I was at the basic school, I never envisioned being a Brigadier General. And the staff NCOs that are now here in the audience and acting as your leaders taught me a lot of lessons. Humility. Humility is one of the first things. I never envisioned that as a platoon commander, I'd have the opportunity to lead young men and women in combat. And for myself, the skills, some of the bigger challenges I ever faced were trying to explain to young men such as yourselves why it is we were where we were in a combat situation. And on a day-to-day basis, those men and women were always very, very impressive. I think that they did great things, and because of the tenets of leadership and the core values, on a day-to-day basis, they were able to execute their task. You all, I think, have certainly the great underpinnings of your future, and you are starting to do fantastic things. Once we enter into your next stage, which is beyond this high school, many of you will go off to college. And when you go off to college, the skills that you're learning right now in terms of self-discipline, scheduling, managing your peers. I talked this morning with a few of your peers, and they said some of the biggest challenges were learning how to lead one another, learning how to lead some of the younger folks, and then setting the example on a day-to-day basis. Out in today's world, I will tell you that many folks are challenged by the fact that they don't have a path and character. Has everyone studied and understand what character is? Character can be defined by those things that you will continue to do even when no one is watching. Even when no one is watching. Great character is absolutely essential for what it is you do. The preparation for character is going to be funded on a number of fundamentals. And part of that is your social underpinning, your core value system, and the value system that your parents may have given you when you embarked upon this journey. Many of you are here because you've chosen to be here. Some of you are here because your parents saw the goodness in it. And I would tell you that from my perspective, you all are certainly doing fantastic work at this point in time. One of the biggest challenges, again, for leadership is the fact that there is no chosen path. There is no formulaic path, and I think I've mentioned this already. Every day that you work through and move forward is essential to your future. Everything that you do on a day-to-day basis makes it very key and essential to who you might be in the future. Some of the biggest leadership challenges I think I've faced in my time were moving through and learning how to lead my peers. And it hasn't always been perfect. As a young platoon commander, I know that there are times where I failed as a leader. And those have been the most formative times. There are times where I was expected to, as a platoon commander, lead my platoon in a particular direction, on a particular mission. And there may have been times where I absolutely did not know where I ended up in terms of land nav. And there were staff NCOs and small unit leaders, sergeants, who had expectations of me. And whenever you fail to prepare, then you certainly cannot perform in the way that's commensurate with your responsibility. You'll learn over time that preparation is fundamental to what it is you do. And preparation is what it is you all are learning. My understanding is that your days are pretty controlled. How much free time do you have? Not much, correct? And those basic management skills, those personal management skills, learning how to manage your time is going to be something that you'll carry forward. If you're going to go into the civilian world, civilian sector, then you will find that there are going to be times where you will need to not only manage yourself, but manage your peers. Not only manage yourself, but manage subordinates. Not only manage yourself, but be prepared for opportunities that might arise. If you don't prepare, if you don't have a path ahead, then you will find that you will miss opportunities. You'll miss opportunities because you simply aren't ready to go. And when you fail to prepare and get yourself ready to go, then those opportunities will pass you by. And particularly in the Marine Corps, those great opportunities as they avail themselves will certainly set you up for larger responsibilities, promotions, and those types of things that open pathways and doorways that you may not have envisioned when you embarked upon your journey. The art and science of leadership is particularly keen in the Marine Corps because of our mission. Our mission is very, very focused, and of course you go in the harm's way. Some of the most challenging times I've had were certainly in combat scenarios where I had to explain to 18-year-old, 19-year-old Marines why it is we were doing what we were doing in both Iraq and Afghanistan. But I used the same leadership skills when I was a restaurant manager at a Pizza Hut back when I was in my 20s, or as a restaurant manager at a different location, or while laying asphalt. Those skills that you need in order to engage different persons are absolutely essential. And you are honing those skills on a day-to-day basis. And this reminds me of a poem that my father, who I feel is one of the individuals who is absolutely important. Has everyone heard of the poem If by Rudyard Kipling? Okay, I'll read you a couple stanzas of that poem very quickly. The poem is about leadership, and it's about being a man. And the poem starts like this. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blame it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowances for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting and being lied about, do not deal in lies. And being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet, don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same. If you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap of fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stop and build them up with worn out tools. The last stanza reads, if you can walk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. When I think about what I've been fortunate enough to accomplish over the last 28 years, I think back to essential mentors and leaders who have influenced and shaped. And that goes back to teachers who I had the opportunity to watch and see back when I was in high school. I went to DeSmet Jesuit High School, a college prep high school, and there were coaches who took the time to mentor and spend time to lead and develop young men who did not think that they had the capacity or the skills to be successful on a football field, and they took the time to lead and show the way. That's going to be an essential tool. Instructors who took their time to ensure that a young man who may or may not have had focus in a particular subject was mentored, coached, and led. They gave of their time to ensure that the success of an individual was going to be contributed to the broader success of a society or a team or a business. To the business leaders for whom I had the opportunity to work, who were very, very much willing to look at a young man who had a work ethic and extend to that young man an opportunity to do a little bit more. And that young man who was a cook, who was a busboy, became a manager and a leader and a commodity within a corporation. The young individuals that I had the chance to go to college with, who were NROTC comrades, those individuals who were the best students in the dorm who are now business executives. They provided opportunities for me as an individual to watch, listen, and learn, and take the best of what it is they had to offer, and take some of those skills, borrow some of those skills, and make them my own so that I could apply them in the future. And then those young leaders, those staff NCOs who I met when I first became a platoon commander, those staff NCOs who again understood the importance of impacting and developing everyone around them. Those individuals, those officers, those commanders, those staff NCOs who shared themselves taught me more about leadership. Leadership is not so much about you as an individual learning everything and being everything. Leadership is about your ability to continue to absorb, to have a desire to continue learning, and have the humility to want to learn from others. Most leaders, the best leaders that I've been able to work with and that I've been exposed to in my time have been those individuals who are absolutely humble, absolutely unassuming, and comfortable with acknowledging that they don't know everything. And the best leaders are those individuals who are willing to admit that they don't know everything and willing to allow their people to be as good as they can do. The most important thing I think any of you can do and learn as a leader is learn that good leaders set conditions for the success of those they lead. That's all good leadership is. Leadership is at the crux of every good formation. If you're into football, anybody a football fan out there? Okay. How many of your teams are still in it right now? Okay, one or two of them. The best teams are comprised of a number of folks that are led by folks who are willing to learn, led by folks who are willing to lead from wherever they are in the organization by playing their role and doing what they can to achieve success for the organization. And the best units and the best leaders surround themselves with other folks who have the attributes of great leaders. We won't read the 14 leadership traits. We won't review the 11 leadership principles. And you know that the Marine Corps uses honor, courage, and commitment as its core values. I would tell you that certainly as you look to your future, those values are going to be hard to live up to. But Vince Lombardi said that it is hard for anyone to be perfect. But he said, while we're pursuing perfection, you'll probably find excellence. And that's why he is renowned as a great leader. Because he was able to imbue those same views into his teams, and those teams continued to pursue excellence. They pursued perfection, and they found excellence. For all of you, gentlemen, I wish you very, very great success in your futures. I know that all of you right now are a little bit tired, a little bit, you're very young, and you have the world ahead of you. Your future lies ahead of you. Understand that right now, where you are beginning your journey. And I think that if you knew, and if you could warp ahead 30 years, you probably wouldn't know just how important where you sit and what you're doing right now today, how important it is to your development. But it is extremely important. It is one of those things that will hold you in good stead for the rest of your lives. Don't miss an opportunity to engage. Don't miss an opportunity to continue to learn from your peers. Don't miss an opportunity to seize any opportunity or gift of opportunity that is presented to you. You never know what you'll learn. You'll never be able to look back and say that you regret it for a moment, that you didn't go and grab the brass ring. You all are going to go off and do great things, as many of your alumni have already done. You all are going to go off and do great things because that is what your parents and you have envisioned for yourselves. And I wish you well in those journeys. You all off to a great start. I appreciate you giving me some time this morning. I know I meandered a bit, but for all of you, it is great to look out here and see your young faces and know that you're going to be the citizens who are going to help the nation move forward. You're going to contribute in ways that you can't even imagine, And you're going to fight in the many domains and work in the many domains that will be challenged by our peer and near-peer competitors out there in the world. It's going to be a slightly different world for you than it has been for our generation. But you'll be up for the challenge of it because of where you're starting today. So again, thank you for your time this morning. That's all I have. Thanks.